Ever feel like you're capable of so much more, but something's holding you back? Like maybe it's not the world, but your own thoughts that are the real obstacle.
Mm.
Well, we're diving deep into a book that tackles this head on as A Man Thinketh by James Allen.
Oh, yeah.
It was written over a century ago,
Right.
but it's mind blowing how relevant it is today.
It's amazing.
And to help us unpack Allen's wisdom, we've got our expert here to connect the dots between his ideas and the challenges we face in our modern world.
Well, it's fascinating how this book has resonated with people from all walks of life, from entrepreneurs to artists to just everyday folks trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to this radical idea that your thoughts are incredibly powerful, so much so that they shape your reality.
Okay, I'm already intrigued.
Yeah.
But that almost is too simple. Can we really control our circumstances just by thinking differently?
Well, Alan doesn't suggest it's some magic formula,
Right.
but he makes a strong case for the connection between thought and character. He says, a man is literally what he thinks. In other words, your thoughts aren't just fleeting things, they're the building blocks of who you are and how you experience the world.
So if I'm constantly thinking negative thoughts, I'm essentially building a negative reality for myself.
That's exactly what Alan argues.
Wow.
He compares the mind to a garden. Just as you wouldn't let weeds take over your flower beds,
Right.
you shouldn't let negative thoughts dominate your mental space.
Hmm.
Think about your most persistent negative thought. Maybe it's, I'm not good enough, or I'll never achieve my goals.
Yeah.
Now imagine pulling that thought out of your mental garden like a weed,
Okay.
making space for a positive affirmation to bloom in its place.
Okay, that's a pretty powerful image. It makes you realize we have more control over our inner world than we often give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely. And that brings us to one of Alan's most challenging but liberating ideas,
Okay.
taking responsibility.
Hmm.
He doesn't sugarcoat it. He says you are responsible for your own life. It's easy to blame external factors for our misfortunes, but true change comes from looking inward.
I can see how that could be empowering, but also a bit daunting.
Yeah.
Does Alan acknowledge that bad things happen that are completely out of our control?
He does. Alan isn't suggesting that we're immune to life's curveballs,
Right.
but he emphasizes that even in the face of external challenges, our thoughts dictate how we respond and ultimately shape our experience.
So it's not about denying the reality of external circumstances, but recognizing the power we have to choose our thoughts and reactions in any given situation.
Precisely. And this leads to the next fascinating concept, the importance of purpose.
Okay.
Alan argues that drifting through life aimlessly leads to weakness and unhappiness.
Hmm.
He believes we need a central purpose, a guiding star,
Right.
to focus our thoughts and actions.
It makes sense that having a clear sense of purpose would give you direction and motivation, but how do you actually find that purpose? Do some people just stumble upon it while others have to actively seek it out?
Alan encourages you to think about your values, passions, and the impact you want to make on the world.
Mhm.
What truly lights you up? What problems do you feel compelled to solve? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Right.
It's a process of self-discovery, and it can take time and introspection.
This part about sacrifice really makes me think.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear a lot about hustle culture and pushing yourself to achieve your goals, but where do you draw the line? Is Alan talking about sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term gain, or is he advocating for giving up something truly valuable?
That's a great question. Alan's view on sacrifice is nuanced. He's not advocating for mindless self-denial.
Okay.
He believes any worthwhile goal requires making conscious choices
Yeah.
about what truly matters to you and being willing to let go of what doesn't serve your higher purpose.
So it's about prioritizing and aligning your actions with your goals, even if it means saying no to things that might seem appealing in the moment, but ultimately distract you from what you really want to achieve.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices and sometimes delaying gratification to create a life that's aligned with your values and vision.
Hmm.
And that brings us to another powerful concept that Alan explores, the power of vision. He argues that we become what we think about most.
Oh?
It's about holding on to your dreams and ideals no matter how challenging your circumstances might be.
So it's not just about having a vague dream, but about cultivating a clear vision for the future and consistently working towards it.
Right.
But in a world full of distractions and setbacks, how do we prevent those visions from being overshadowed by the everyday chaos?
Alan suggests making your vision tangible. Write it down, create a vision board, or find other ways to remind yourself of what you're striving for.
Okay.
And it's not enough to just visualize the outcome. Break down your goals into smaller, actionable steps and focus on taking those steps consistently.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like creating a roadmap for your dreams and then taking those steps one by one to get there.
Yeah.
But I imagine there will be times when you hit roadblocks or feel like giving up. What does Alan say about dealing with those inevitable challenges?
He emphasizes persistence. There will be obstacles and setbacks along the way,
Right.
but it's important to keep your vision in mind and not give up on what truly matters to you. He reminds us that the greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities.
Wow, that's a beautiful and inspiring thought. It's like he's saying that everything we desire already exists in potential form, waiting for us to nurture it and bring it into being.
Absolutely.
And he also reminds us that true peace comes not from external circumstances, but from mastering our own minds.
Right.
He's encouraging us to cultivate a sense of serenity, of inner peace amidst the chaos of life.
Yeah.
That's something I think we could all benefit from, especially in today's fast-paced world. But what does cultivating serenity actually look like in practice?
Alan believes that by understanding yourself as a product of your own thoughts, you can let go of anger, worry, and doubt, and cultivate a state of inner peace, regardless of external circumstances.
So it's not about pretending everything is perfect or avoiding challenges altogether, but about developing an inner resilience that allows you to navigate the ups and downs of life with greater grace and composure.
Exactly. And that leads us to another important aspect of Alan's philosophy that we'll explore further in the next part of our deep dive, the practical techniques and strategies he offers for cultivating serenity and mastering your mind. It's remarkable how Alan manages to weave together philosophy and practicality, giving you tangible tools to apply these principles in your everyday life.
I'm eager to dig into those practical tools. And the last part, we talked about how our thoughts shape our reality. And it reminded me of something I've been grappling with: self-sabotage.
Hmm.
Why do we sometimes create our own limitations, even when we consciously desire something different? Does Alan offer any insight into that?
He does. Alan would likely say those self-imposed limitations stem from deeply ingrained thought patterns. Perhaps beliefs about ourselves that we've held on to for so long that we don't even question them.
So those limiting beliefs become like the default settings in our minds, shaping how we see ourselves and the world.
Exactly. And breaking free from those patterns requires conscious effort. It's about becoming aware of those negative thoughts as they arise and choosing to challenge them.
Okay.
Alan suggests replacing them with positive affirmations that align with the person you want to be and the life you want to create.
That makes sense, but it also sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, we're bombarded with so much information and stimulation these days.
Right.
How can we cultivate that kind of mental discipline in a world that often feels designed to distract us?
You're right. It does take effort.
Yeah.
But Alan wouldn't say it's about becoming some kind of emotionless robot.
Right.
He emphasizes the importance of understanding your emotions as products of your thoughts. So instead of getting swept away by negativity, you can observe those feelings, understand their source, and choose a different response.
So it's more about becoming aware of those emotions and then making a conscious decision about how you want to respond rather than just reacting automatically.
Exactly. It's about developing a greater sense of self-awareness and emotional regulation.
Huh.
It's like building mental muscle. The more you practice, the better you become at managing your thoughts and reactions.
This idea of mastering our minds and cultivating serenity leads us to Alan's next big concept: the effect of thought on circumstances. He seems to challenge the idea that external factors solely determine our happiness or success. Isn't that a bit idealistic? Don't external factors play a huge role too?
He acknowledges external factors, but Alan firmly believes our thoughts play a pivotal role in shaping the reality we experience. He used a powerful analogy. A man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild, but whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth.
I see what you mean. It's like we have this incredible power to cultivate our inner landscape and create the conditions for success and happiness.
Yeah.
But what happens when we experience negative circumstances despite our best efforts to think positively?
Alan would say that when you experience negative circumstances, it's a sign to examine your thoughts and identify where you might be out of alignment with your true self. It's not about ignoring or suppressing negative emotions, but rather seeing them as signals, prompting you to investigate the underlying thoughts that are creating those feelings.
I hadn't thought of it that way. So it's not about denying those negative emotions, but using them as a catalyst for deeper self-reflection and understanding.
Precisely. Alan is big on understanding the law of cause and effect, as it applies to your thoughts. He writes, "Suffering is always the effect of wrong thought in some direction. It is an indication that the individual is out of harmony with himself, with the law of his being."
This is all starting to make a lot more sense, but how do we shift from being reactive to our circumstances to becoming proactive creators of the life we want? It feels like sometimes life just happens to us.
Alan would say it starts with taking responsibility for your thoughts. He writes, "Circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself."
It's like our circumstances are a mirror reflecting back to us the quality of our thoughts.
Exactly. And once you realize that, you can start to consciously choose thoughts that are aligned with the kind of person you want to be and the kind of life you want to create.
Okay, so that's the goal conscious thought creation.
Right.
But how do you actually change ingrained thought patterns? It's like trying to break a bad habit. It's not easy.
Alan emphasizes the importance of discipline and persistent effort. He encourages you to weed out negative thoughts as they arise and to deliberately cultivate positive ones.
It almost sounds like training our minds similar to how we train our bodies at the gym.
It's a great analogy. It takes time, effort, and consistency. But with practice, you can rewire your brain to think more positively and constructively.
It's a fascinating perspective. And speaking of direction, Alan also talks about having a definite chief aim, a clear vision for our lives. Why is that so important?
He believes having a central purpose provides direction and motivation for your thoughts and actions. He writes, "He who would accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who would achieve much must sacrifice much. He who would attain highly must sacrifice greatly." He uses vivid language to emphasize the power of purpose.
It's almost like our purpose is a compass guiding us towards our desired destination, and the sacrifices we make along the way are the fuel that propels us forward.
That's a wonderful way to put it. Alan emphasizes that true success and happiness come from aligning your actions with your purpose, even when it requires you to make difficult choices.
So it's not about chasing fleeting pleasures or external validation, but about pursuing a life of meaning and purpose.
Right.
And that's where the power of vision comes in. It's not just about having a vague dream, but about cultivating a clear vision for the future and consistently working towards it.
Absolutely. Alan encourages you to dream big, to create a clear mental picture of the life you want, and hold on to that vision with unwavering faith. He says, "Cherish your visions. Cherish your ideals. Cherish the music that stirs in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind, the loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts, for out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environment of these. If you but remain true to them, your world will at last be built.
It's so inspiring he's saying that our dreams are not just fantasies, but blueprints for the future we can create.
And he provides practical guidance for making those dreams a reality. He suggests that you write down your goals, visualize yourself achieving them, and take consistent action towards them.
So it's about combining the power of thought with the power of action.
Precisely. Alan emphasizes that your thoughts are the seeds of your actions, and your actions are the fruits of your thoughts.
He also talks about the importance of cultivating serenity, finding inner peace amidst the chaos of life.
Right.
Why is that so important?
Alan believes that true serenity isn't dependent on external circumstances, but rather on your ability to master your own mind. He writes, calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It's the result of long and patient effort and self-control. Its presence is an indication of ripened experience and of a more than ordinary knowledge of the laws and operations of thought.
So it's not about avoiding challenges or pretending everything is perfect, but about developing a sense of inner peace that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience.
Exactly, and Alan reminds us that cultivating serenity isn't a passive process, but an active one. It requires you to be mindful of your thoughts, to choose them wisely, and to practice self-control in the face of adversity.
It sounds like serenity is not just a state of being, but a skill you can develop through practice and intention.
Absolutely, and Alan provides some specific techniques for cultivating serenity, such as mindfulness, forgiveness, and the practice of gratitude.
These are all powerful tools for managing our emotions and creating a sense of inner peace.
Yes.
But what are some of those practical techniques that Alan suggests for putting these principles into practice?
Well, that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore specific strategies for cultivating serenity, mastering your mind, and ultimately shaping your reality.
Okay, I'm ready to unlock those practical tools in the last part we left off talking about serenity and mastering the mind. How do we cultivate that sense of inner peace amidst all the chaos, especially when it feels like the world is designed to stress us out?
One of the most powerful techniques Alan offers is the practice of visualization. He talks about creating a clear mental picture of your goals and desires, and then holding onto that vision with unwavering faith. It's about more than just daydreaming. It's actively engaging your imagination and emotions to make that vision feel real.
So it's not just seeing it, it's feeling it, believing it as if it's already happening. That makes sense. But I've heard of visualization before, and I've always wondered, is it really that effective? Does it actually work?
Well, Alan believed that by consistently visualizing your goals, you create a powerful mental blueprint. This blueprint guides your actions and can even attract the resources you need to achieve those goals. It's almost like setting the GPS in your mind, leading you toward your desired destination.
I love that analogy. It makes visualization seem much less abstract and more like a practical tool for achieving what you want. But what about when we face those inevitable setbacks? How do we stay motivated and maintain that positive vision when things get tough? I know I tend to get discouraged easily.
Alan encourages you to see challenges as opportunities for growth. He reminds us that obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off your goal. So it's about staying focused on the big picture, the why behind your goals, and not letting those temporary setbacks derail you.
That's a great reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day struggles and lose sight of the bigger picture. But even with the best intentions, sometimes those negative thoughts creep in. How do we combat those and really shift our mindset?
Alan emphasizes the importance of self-control, mastering your thoughts and emotions. He writes, "He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. His every thought is allied with power, and all difficulties are bravely met and wisely overcome. His purposes are seasonably planted, and they bloom and bring forth fruit which does not fall prematurely to the ground." He saw self-control as the foundation for unlocking your true potential.
So it's about becoming the captain of your own ship, steering yourself toward your desired destination, even when the seas get rough. But how do we develop that kind of self-mastery? It sounds like a lifelong journey.
Alan was a big believer in daily practice. He compared the process of self-development to the work of a sculptor who gradually chips away at the stone to reveal the masterpiece within. It's about making small, consistent efforts to improve yourself day by day.
This reminds me of something else Alan wrote. He who would accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who would achieve much must sacrifice much. He who would attain highly must sacrifice greatly. It seems every act of self-control is an investment in our future selves, a step closer to realizing our full potential. But with everything going on in our lives, how can we make time for self-improvement and stay committed to that journey?
Well, Alan would likely say that you have to make it a priority.
Yeah.
You can start by incorporating small practices into your daily routine, like mindfulness exercises, meditation, or even just taking a few moments each day to reflect on your thoughts and intentions.
I think that's something we can all do even with our busy schedules, just taking a few minutes to breathe, center ourselves, and become more aware of what's going on in our minds.
Exactly. And remember, self-control isn't about suppressing your emotions or denying your desires. It's about channeling them in a positive and constructive direction.
This deep dive into As a Man Thinketh has been incredibly insightful. It's given me a lot to think about and some practical tools to work with.
It truly is a timeless classic, offering wisdom and guidance that's just as relevant today as it was over a century ago.
For our listener out there, I hope you found this exploration as valuable as I have if you're feeling stuck. Remember Alan's powerful words, dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be yourself. Ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil.
So keep thinking, keep growing, and keep unlocking your incredible potential. Until next time, may your thoughts be filled with purpose, power, and peace.